Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm excited today because I have something a little bit different for you guys. I had the awesome opportunity to have a conversation with another marathon content creator here on YouTube. His channel is called Sado Talks Marathon, and I've recommended it to a few viewers in my comment section already. He does some really detailed work in describing what the gameplay mechanics of extraction shooters are and what we could potentially see in the upcoming marathon game. And it's not just speculative hogwash, as he is very experienced in both extraction shooters and other Bungie games, like Destiny, which he has thousands of hours in. I have received quite a few comments on some of my videos asking for specifics about gameplay elements and design things around extraction shooters that I don't feel like I'm necessarily entirely able to answer. That's part of the reason why I started my series about While We Wait for Marathon, where I was checking out other extraction shooter games, which I do plan on continuing. So with this conversation, I sought to get some answers to a lot of those questions that we have and speculations about the upcoming marathon game that might give us a little better understanding about the direction they could take it from somebody who has an immense amount of experience. We obviously weren't able to cover all of the looming questions that exist around the upcoming marathon, but I think we did a pretty good job in touching on a lot of the key elements that people are questioning in the build-up to when the game releases. This is obviously mostly speculation, but I hope that the conversation expanded on a lot of the key things that the community are talking about at this point in time. And I hope that it serves as something enjoyable for those of us who are starved for anything marathon content-wise. The total conversation is about 78 minutes long, and it'll be split up between this video here on my channel, and the second half of the conversation will be on Sado's channel. I obviously recommend that you subscribe to him, as he provides a lot of really cool content for those of you who are interested in marathon. The link to the second half of this conversation, along with a link to his channel, will be included in the description below. Thanks to everyone who has been viewing, liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel over the past few weeks. I really appreciate it, and thank you to Sado for helping me make this awesome little video for you all. Without further ado, here's me and Sado talking about marathon. Thanks guys, bye. Hello, I'm Jake, and today I am joined by Sado, who also runs a marathon-based YouTube channel. And I'm excited to be able to ask him some questions today, as he has some good experience with extraction shooters and Destiny. And obviously we are both interested in the upcoming marathon game. Sado, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad to get to work with you on this and kind of talk about where we're looking at for marathon to land and just get people excited and see how our ideas line up.
Absolutely. Obviously, there's been a little bit of controversy with some of the hero shooter stuff, but it seems like Bungie's on a good foot right now. So I think the more stuff we can get out there, kind of getting people hyped for what the possibilities are, is definitely excellent. Would you mind kind of giving a little bit of your background, I guess, with extraction shooters, Bungie games, and maybe why you decided to start your channel about marathon?
Yeah. For myself, extraction shooters, I've kind of been playing them since 2019, give or take. Destiny, probably about 2017 when Destiny 2 came out. Destiny's probably the much bigger time sink in my life at roughly 3.6 thousand hours right now on Steam.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. A lot of that's just doing raids and endgame. I actually got an email from Bungie 2 weeks ago whenever the final shape came out.
Oh, wow.
Breaking down our total playtime.
Oh.
And I want to say 45% of my playtime was raids and dungeons, which is the endgame. And I was like, wow. Ooh, that's probably higher than a lot of people.
Yeah. And there's a lot of coordination with those. That's like an actual event that you're putting together. It's not as casual as turning on like a Call of Duty or something.
Yeah, thankfully I have my group of friends and my clan to hop in and do some of those things with and get those things planned. I'm not LFGing most of them. I don't like talking to random people.
So it helps to have a team that you're kind of obviously coordinating with and consistent with.
Yeah, I just bullied all of them into downloading the game and then made them play Last Wish, and they were stuck ever since. But for extraction shooters, I want to say I play more Hunt than Tarkov. Hunt Showdown by Crytek. It's been out since, it's been in early access since 2018, I want to say. But I started playing it in 2019. I played that with one duo mostly, who's my friend, Brendy, who's pretty much in every Hunt VOD that I have, and is also one of my Destiny members. And then probably a little bit less time played Tarkov, mostly with my roommate or solo. But I want to say they're both around 500 to 600 hours each.
Wow. Have you always been a big multiplayer gamer? Or is that something you kind of came into as you got more into the like kind of cooperative, having a clan and friends who are playing along with you?
No, I want to say I've been playing multiplayer most of my life, because I started out playing like Devil May Cry and God of War when I was like 6. Okay. So I got into COD at like 7. You know, it was gotcha. 2007 with Modern Warfare, the original.
Oh, okay.
That's when I got into it, and I've been in it ever since. And it's pain because I want to play single player games like Dragon's Dogma, and I can't because I'm like, there's nobody here with me. I'm lonely. I'm a very big social gamer, I'd say.
Gotcha. I mean, if there's a good place to start to get you hooked, I feel like the original Modern Warfare was definitely the gateway drug of sorts for a lot of people, for sure.
Oh yeah, crazy for an 8-year-old to play that when at the dawn of the internet gaming, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially much less restricted kind of lobbies back then. Things were a lot more open to whatever people wanted to do or say. I feel like my first, obviously the Call of Duty Modern Warfare was definitely spent a lot of time there, but Gears, the original Gears of War, some atrocious good times playing multiplayer with adults. With adults who don't care that you're a child.
Yeah, I think I only got into trouble for yelling at somebody online once, and that was Modern Warfare 2. And it was 3 a.m., and I did wake my mom up with some apparently terrible words for a 9-year-old to be saying, or however old I was at the time. But yeah, good times too. I made a lot of friends playing Call of Duty, you know, or just online games in general.
Yeah.
Because back then, I don't think I had a lot of friends in school that were playing video games. You know, it's late 2000s. It wasn't super common for all the kids to have the PlayStations and stuff yet. Yeah. It was a little bit later when everybody got onto it. So I made a lot of friends online, and I ended up playing games like Lost Planet. Had a multiplayer like co-op story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is, oh no, I talked about it. So my gamer tag right now is Sado. I got the idea of playing Lost Planet with some random online. Okay. His name was Flying Chicken Poo, right?
a good name.
So we're playing the campaign for like 8 hours. And at the end of it, there's another guy with us. We're like, why is this guy's name Flying Chicken Poo? And we ask him. He's like, oh, because when I kill somebody in COD, it says you were killed by flying chicken poo. And I was like, that's genius. I'm going to go make my own account and call it your mom. It was taken. So I ended up doing your Shadow, and I was trying to do Shadow, but it was taken. So I deleted the H because it still sounded like Shadow. And I got rid of the your eventually in college when I was playing Overwatch. So now I'm just Shadow. But yeah, it's all deep lore from.
I was gonna say this is early
2000s.
The true Sado origin story here.
Yeah, it's all multiplayer. Somebody online told me about it. You know. Yeah. So somebody online convinced me to become Sado.
Yeah. No, see that illustrates the kind of power of a good multiplayer game. Yeah, I definitely have some people who I'm sure still remember me, and we spent hundreds of hours, dozens of hours, you know, playing through campaigns and stuff. And especially when you're younger, you know, you have that time to kind of like get there and get invested with these people, and there's not that you know, pretense of like, oh, this is weird or abnormal. It's like everyone's just willing to dive in, you know. And a lot of it has
as I
got
to older, I became less talkative. With randoms.
Yeah, exactly. Now I get on the lobby, I'm less willing to kind of shuffle my way through the insanity to find somebody who's chill.
Yeah, I turn on the game and I'm like, ooh, you have mic on? Muted. I don't want to hear anybody.
Yeah, I don't think I even used the mute feature until I was well into my 20s. I was like, oh no, I want to hear it. It's fun. But now it's like, I can leave it. Well, this is good. I feel like that's a good setup. And today, our goal is, and you can kind of help me if I miss anything here, but our goal, we want to make a video that kind of talks about extraction shooters in general, Marathon, obviously, specifically, and Bungie and kind of what's to come. And then, obviously, with you here, we obviously have like a very big resource as someone who's very experienced with extraction shooters and also Bungie games. So you're kind of the perfect individual, the subject matter expert that kind of has the combined knowledge of these things. So we've put a few questions down that can kind of guide the conversation. And so maybe we can work through those and kind of ask you how you're feeling about those and just kind of use that as a reference point to give people a better understanding of where our head is at in terms of Marathon and what's coming up with that. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. Talking about Marathon, looking at the extraction shooters that are out, Destiny, Bungie. I got my hand in all the cookie jars. I'm not going to say I'm an expert in everything, but I am a numbers person. I do my number crunching for my damage tests and everything in Destiny, and I'm also I kind of play with everything. In something like Hunter Tarkov. I'm a big fan of experimenting with a lot of things. I don't like using just the good things. Yeah. So I've seen what good things and bad things look like. So I might have an idea. Obviously, I'm not gospel. But to give some context from my point of view, and you, of course, have your own point of view coming from, a newer person into the extraction shooter genre with your own takes. So I'm interested to see, what we can, what conclusions we can come to with our two experiences together.
Absolutely. Awesome. Do you mind if I jump into kind of this first question to kind of set up a base here?
Yeah, as long as you're ready.
I am absolutely ready. So the first one I have written down here, it's kind of basic, but I think this will help us build. What is an extraction shooter? What are the kind of qualities? Like when Bungie comes out and they say, hey, we're going to make an extraction shooter. It's based on Marathon, this, old trilogy of games. What does that mean to you? As someone who's played Hunt, who's played Tarkov, when they say they're making an extraction shooter, what is kind of like generally the gameplay that we're looking forward to?
Yeah, so obviously we're getting a PvP focused game, but they did say that when they were announcing it on the front of their webpage for Marathon. But a PvP focus is definitely a big part of like being an extraction shooter. Excuse me, but that amount of focus can vary. So something like Hunt, I would say, is more PvP focused, where you have to fight people to kind of progress. In Tarkov, you can kind of get away with not fighting people. So I'm kind of expecting it to be somewhere in the middle of that, where yes, it's going to be PvP focused in the sense of we're going to fight other players, but I don't think they're going to make it mandatory to progress that you have to fight people.
Okay.
But to go with that, like the staples of an extraction shooter, to me, are making your own loadouts. You have to spend resources, acquire resources in game. You go in with your loadout. You try and complete whatever task you have set up for yourself, whether that's a quest or a personal goal, and you try to survive and make it out. And if you don't, you lose what you brought in. And if you survive, you get your progress, you get your more money or your new guns, whatever you went in there and got. And there's a theme of constantly playing the risk versus reward game. You're playing the odds and gambling with your time and energy that you put into the game and your in-game funds that you amassed versus your odds of surviving. Everything comes down to chance, really. You're never guaranteed to live. But it's a big risk-reward game on the grand scheme of things.
And so, like, generally, when I think, obviously, about multiplayer games, I'm kind of thinking in terms of, like, round to round, obviously, what you're carrying with you is maybe it's cosmetic or a new weapon that you unlocked or something, or, I'm trying to increase my KD ratio and stuff. Do you find that when you're playing, like, extraction shooters, are you thinking match to match more long term, or is the vibe kind of more about that moment to moment? I'm going to, enter into this lobby and have a good experience here, or is it more strategic and that's kind of the draw of this type of gameplay where you have this kind of more seriousness to the death because you could lose these items that you're not going to get to use, if you don't extract with them.
Yeah, I want to say the silver lining of the genre, the real thing that you're going for, is that it's somewhere in between that. It's a mix of the two, and you can kind of go the way of, we're looking for improving our KD, or just to go blast people and have fun, or you could go more into I'm going into the nitty gritty. I need to grind out the money. I need to make the profit and do this, complete the quest, whatever. Typically, this is more for Tarkov than Hunt. Hunt is a little more focused on going into the objective, and you have to go do the objective and fight people. But in something like Tarkov, you can go in and just say, I'm going to go buy a bunch of SMGs and I'm going to spend all day rushing for fun. And you can do that, and you can make money if you're good at it. If you want to improve your KD that way, you can progress like that. You can do pretty much everything just by doing that. Or you could be more technical. I want to go here, here, and here on the map, loot all these things. Hopefully this will get me my quest items if you learn where things spawn. So the general beauty is you can make it what you want, and winning is what you want in it. So personally, I look at it and yes, I lose everything that I bring in if I die, but it's part of the game. So I try, and if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out fighting because that's what I find fun.
Yeah.
But some people get more into the game, get more immersed if they're fighting for their life and put survival first. So it's really a person by person thing, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of one of the things that draws me to the concept of the extraction shooter is that, like some games, like you could join and I haven't played like a ton of GTA multiplayer, but you could join like a big lobby game like that, and there's a lot to do, and it's kind of all on you, and there's a lot of flexibility as to how you play. But I feel like with the extraction shooter, you kind of have this big open area and you have flexibility in how you choose to play, but also there's that restriction in a sense of like there is a goal. Like there is a goal if you want to engage in that. And I feel like as opposed to like having this kind of large scale open, less guided kind of situation where like maybe there's match timers or there's clear benefits to doing certain things, it kind of brings in kind of the best of both worlds in the sense that yes, it's telling you to be creative and make decisions and come up with cool ways to do things, but also there is like a path there for you to go down, and if you do need some direction, it's kind of available to you. Does that from your experience seem accurate in terms of like when you're playing a hunt match or when you're dropping in Tarkov? Does it seem like that guidance is like beneficial, or does it feel too restrictive at times?
No, I'd say that's pretty accurate to how Tarkov feels to play. Because if you're going in and you're just trying to do whatever to progress, you can do that. But there's always a fallback. Say you're having a bad day or something. If you just want to go in and make some money, you can learn how to do that. Or if you want to just have the quests and just go for questing, you can do that and try to, speed up whatever you're doing if you're falling behind, or get ahead if you're early in the wipe. You can knock out a bunch of those and get ahead of everybody else. So it's a nice fallback to have. And it does push you to do it to a degree. But I think you'll see plenty of people if you look through Tarkov players that don't quest for their life.
Gotcha.
But it's nice to have, personally. Sometimes I just want to go do a quest and knock out some XP and get to the next level. And some people grind it. So it's a nice thing to have a choice in what you want to do.
So I guess looking specifically at Hunt and Tarkov, because that's where your experience is at, but I guess also if you have like some other extraction shooters, do you feel like generally there are some pitfalls or kind of like problems that exist within extraction shooters specifically that you think Bungie could do better with in Marathon, or identify those issues? Like, is there like, okay, this is annoying, this mechanic, the way this is about extraction shooters generally, is something that could be improved upon by, you know, a major AAA studio?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons I'm really excited about Bungie making Marathon. Is there's very specific things. I wouldn't say it's inherent to the extraction shooter genre that I want these to be made up, but just in the way that the landscape is right now.
Okay.
I generally consider Hunted Tarkov to be inaccessible games to the majority of people. Hunt is, you know, it's on PC, it's on consoles. Technically, it's accessible. If you want to go buy it, you can go buy it. But the style of the game is niche. It's cowboys, you know, 1800s, lever actions, bolt actions. It's a very slow game with a very fast time to kill. And Tarkov is similarly, you know, fast time to kill, but it's much more, I say milsimi. The term could be more technical than that, but you know, customizing your guns and doing all the work on those, buying your magazines, buying the bullet for your magazines, making loadouts takes a lot of time in Tarkov. And I don't think either of them are the pace of something like Call of Duty or Halo or any other big shooter, even like, you know, Fortnite and Apex. You can kind of hop in, you can play them, and you can get off. And I think that's a big thing that the genre hasn't come to terms with. I think Bungie could improve the in-between, because this is mostly, you know, unloading a level and loading into the next game kind of thing. They've said they want to have really fast load times, which do a lot for that. But I think more importantly, to get people on board with that, is to have loadouts be really simple or fast to create. Even if it's just being able to save a loadout and then rebuying it, but not having too many things on there. So if you wanted to go change something, you didn't have to go and change out half the loadout to change your sidearm. You could just change the sidearm. And then the moment-to-moment gameplay just being faster, more responsive, more typical arcade shooter speed. So I think, you know, Modern Warfare 2 speed, you know, you're moving kind of fast, the guns kill quickly, but it's not Tarkov with the inertia and the weird recoil, and Hunt with the rechambering every round. So there's just, you know, you're using an M4 and it feels like you're playing a shooter from the last 5 years at the same time. I think that's where they need to land, and that's what's interesting to me for those combinations, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I had made a video about Hunt where I'd played a little bit a long time ago, and I went back and did just kind of, you know, build my extraction shooter knowledge. And I had said that in that video, is that one of the things that turned me off from Hunt is that it felt very specific. Like, it felt like you had to really be invested in, you know, the visual representation, like you said, these slow weapons, the setting, you know, the time period of it. It's like very, it's very specific, you know. Whereas, yeah, if you look at something like Call of Duty, even if they introduce, you know, sci-fi or, you know, old school concepts, there is something that's kind of very broad enough, you know, to draw in a more generalized audience, which obviously would benefit a game that's built kind of on having a large player base. Do you do you think that this kind of like season pass concept is like a good way for Bungie to go in terms of, like, I mean, obviously it's going to be like a live service game, right? So is that kind of the path that you expect them to take in terms of, like, we have a season, and throughout that season we're going to introduce new items and areas and I guess abilities? Like, is that what you expect in terms of what you've seen in the other extraction shooters you played?
Yeah, I mean, I expect it to be live service for a lot of reasons. It's going to be an online game that's coming out in modern day, which just means they're planning for it to be online forever.
Yeah.
So they're going to monetize it. I kind of expect it to be charged up front to a degree, because that's kind of how Hunt and Tarkov work. And That's originally what they did with Destiny, and I just think it adds a little layer of safety between players and cheaters just coming in over and over,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting that they could totally go free to play, and it wouldn't really change much if they have good enough security. But in terms of seasons and month to month kind of changes, Tarkov hasn't really done any expansions or anything like that yet because technically it's still
Being developed,
early access. It's not done yet. Yeah. Um, so really looking at Hunt and the way Hunt does its monetization. Originally, it was just cosmetics, and you either bought the pack of cosmetics or you bought or earned currency in game to get other cosmetics. And that was fine for a while, but it was definitely unsustainable for them, and they had to revamp it. And they started doing seasons, but their seasons aren't like, oh, it's been 3 months, we're going to a new season. Something like, Fortnite does, where you're always in a season.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of do like 2-3 months is a season, then we have 3 months off, and then they'll do another season pass. And everything that has gameplay implications, all the guns or equipment, you unlock for free in the pass, and if the pass is over, it kind of just gets added to the progression.
Okay.
And the season pass itself is for cosmetics. There's cool skins and some lore bits and stuff like that, which I think is totally fine. I firmly believe that if they're doing a live service game and it has PvP, all of their drops of content, if it's gameplay changing, has to be free as part of that season. And then if they do a season pass, it has to be cosmetics. If it's not, if it's you have to buy to get the things, I would personally drop the game, and I don't think it would be a good investment for people up front, just because no one wants a pay to win PvP game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it feels shitty. It would split the player base to a degree, and I think they've learned from that. I think they know all their Destiny PvP maps have been free to play for years.
Mm-hmm.
They've explicitly said they don't want to split the player base, so I think they know they shouldn't do that. So I'm not expecting them to do that. It's just on premise if it happens, because somebody high up in the leadership says we need to do it.
And make the profit.
I wouldn't spend money on it. I wouldn't. Yeah, that's a dead game.
So with I guess like when we're thinking like this long-term kind of success of the game, it's probably like pretty difficult in terms of like balancing to kind of introduce new weapons or new abilities and stuff, I guess, into that PvP environment. Like when the stakes obviously are this high. I guess it's one thing if it's like Call of Duty adds a new gun or something. It's like, okay, that's going to hurt that match, and then they're going to get feedback, and then they can change it or whatever. But with this, it's like there's real consequences. Have like Hunt and Tarkov like added like a weapon or ability or something they use that kind of broke the game, and like that kind of left players with this bad taste in their mouth because they lost a bunch of maybe a character or something? Has that happened? Is that like a pretty common occurrence? Or
I mean, I would say there's plenty of things in those games that are, let's call them exclusive. Maybe high end is more appropriate. There's a specific gun in Hunt that it's been out since the game was in early access. It's been out forever. But anytime you see it and you die to it, you're like, what the fuck? And that's the Avto, which is just a full auto Mosin with 15 rounds in the mag.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that would be problematic.
In the game. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of awful, but it's also just really funny because if you land the shots, I mean, two shots is enough to kill people 90% of the time. But it's got crazy recoil. You don't have any spare ammo, unless you bring something to bring more. So it's balanced, I would say. But dying to it used to feel bad, and they've nerfed it. But it was never a question of, oh, I don't have access to it, I can't get it. It's I have to play with the Mosin and level it up and unlock it, and I need the money to buy it because it was the most expensive gun in the game. So yeah, people were mad about it to a degree, but also when you killed somebody with it, it was really funny and you got to take it, So you're like, now this is mine. And that's kind of the silver lining where, in Hunt that happens. In Tarkov, there's people that rush the trader levels and get to max level and have the cool guns. Like they're adding the saw. So I'm assuming the Sig Saw is going to be a max level weapon. So it's an LMG with NATO rounds, and it's going to be crazy. You're going to die to that, and you're going to be like, wow, that's crazy. That sucked. But once you kill somebody with it and you take it, you're going to be really happy. And there's nothing preventing you from doing that. And for the most part, even the best weapons in the games have downsides. Where things like that Avto in Hunt has a lot of recoil, almost impossible to lay somebody out more than 50 meters away. Weapons in Tarkov, like the really high-end weapons, they're mostly the high-end weapons because they have really good ergonomics, so you can stay ADS longer, or they have shorter barrels. Shorter barrels are expensive in Tarkov because the barrel length dictates if your gun is pointed forward when you're close to an object, because you actually the barrel is a physical thing, right? So you have to manipulate that in the game. So things like that get really expensive, but they shoot the same bullets. The damage is pretty competitive. The worst gun in Hunter Tarkov, okay, maybe not Tarkov. Tarkov has some really bad guns, but let's say on average, the worst rifle in Tarkov is going to have a decent time against the best rifle. And the worst weapon in Hunt is pretty competitive against the best. It's just a matter of being able to recognize what you're up against.
Yeah.
Or just getting lucky. They all work. So I don't think there's ever been a big uproar because none of them have ever been added that people couldn't get to. It's just sometimes people don't want to put into work to get those things.
Yeah.
But if something is oppressive, usually gets nerfed, and that's fine.
Do you feel like
it'll happen?
Extraction shooters, or maybe PvP games in general, do you think that they benefit from maybe a lobby where like everyone's kind of at that lower level? Is that something that you expect Marathon to introduce, more of like a casual kind of mode where everyone's coming in with like same base level stuff? Or do you think that the game itself is so geared towards that kind of extraction concept that these games don't really need to have like a separate or alternative kind of like more casual multiplayer mode? I know Tarkov, right, has something called like Arena, I want to say, which is more of just like kind of a straight-laced multiplayer match kind of deal. Is that something that you expect them to kind of include, just because they have this obvious history of making Halo, obviously, so they're very experienced in putting together kind of just a competent, straightforward multiplayer thing? Or do you think that's something that they shouldn't kind of spend their time focusing on, or at least you don't expect it to show up initially?
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't expect them to focus on an arena style mode. Even in Tarkov, Arena is like it's its own side game that you buy separately.
I didn't
buy
realize
like an upgraded version of the game.
Okay.
You get it. Yeah, it's like their competitive version. They're trying to synchronize it. There's going to be some crossplay between them where you can send money or gear from one to the other, kind of thing. That they're trying to implement either right now. I think they actually just implemented it this week. But in general, like it's more of like a training ground to practice like what the guns feel like and how to take gunfights, I would say. But I think it's it would be a very not, how do I say this? I think it would be bad training to go into something like that and try to practice for an extraction shooter, because you get into the mindset of playing it like you're playing COD.
Yeah.
Or like an arena. So I think it's better to get into the extraction shooter itself. That said, Hunt and Tarkov have two distinct ways of getting new players onboarded. Tarkov's is very new. It used to be when you loaded up Tarkov, you just kind of got in and you went in and that was it. You queued up with everybody, which I think was fine. It definitely stuck you in the ground a little bit and stomped on you, but you get thrown the maps, and yeah, it was trial by fire, but there were ways around it. It was a lot simpler back then when I was doing this. This is like 2019, so back then, if you had enough money, you could buy anything on the flea market at level 5, so it was a lot easier. Now everything's a little bit later, and it's harder to do that. So they've added a map that is technically the first map for their story mode that you have to start out on, so you have to do quests there in the beginning. But it's going to have a level 15 and under queue only.
Okay.
There's some debate on where they're going to actually leave that and what's going to go on, but the current plan is if you're playing that map specifically, there is a level cutoff at level 15 where anybody that hits 15 or goes over is in their own queue on that map, and anybody under that level is in their own little bubble.
Okay.
And it's a smaller map. It's pretty easy to understand. There's actually maps of it on the map, unlike a lot of the other maps, so you can kind of get your bearings and find out where things are. And Hunt doesn't do anything like that. You do get thrown into the wolves. There is matchmaking, I would say MMR, so there's like a bit of rating.
Yes.
So it tries to queue you up based on the size of your team. If you're solo, duo, or trio, it changes your modifier. And then somewhere in your skill band.
I almost feel like that we might need it might be a whole separate video talking about skill-based matchmaking. But I guess generally, since you're there, do you think that Marathon should kind of go that route and try to make these lobbies where people are generally matched up? Or do you see, are you familiar with this X Defiant that just came out? Obviously, I feel like their kind of big thing is they're kind of doing more traditional lobbies where they just kind of throw people in and then let the, cream of the crop kind of fill out as normal.
Separate themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a very loose matchmaking being okay. I've never personally had a problem with Hunt's matchmaking, except for the degree that once we get up to the 6 stars, which is the max MMR bracket, the people at the higher tier are the ones that have the highest KD, and they don't play the game normally. So usually I'd say the game's like unplayable if you're fighting these people versus you're playing the skill tier below. Because the second to highest, you're seeing a bit of everything. You're seeing shotguns, you're seeing rifles. Once you get to like the top tier, it's people sitting in bushes halfway across the map with a sniper because they don't want to die, because if they die, they lose their rank. And I think that's kind of a fallacy of MMRs. If you're playing against people with high KDs, they're good at the game. But I've seen some people that are up there that don't know how to, disarm a trap in front of them. So it's like there's play styles that will get people higher, and I think it adds too much if you know it's there. But if it's loose enough, I think it's fine. I generally prefer just no matchmaking, no MMR like that. If there's going to be something, maybe for the lowest end, you give them, their own little bracket while they're learning or getting new information, acquiring it, or the kids and grown up. I think that's fine to keep them safe in their own little safe space. But everybody else, I think, should just be tossed to the wolves, and whatever happens, because there's so many things that can affect a game like these, where they're very open maps. You could get jumped in at any time. You don't know where people are coming from. There's places that they could be hiding 400 meters away. You don't know. And if that's if you are the lesser skilled player hiding 400 meters away with a sniper, the odds are you miss your shot. But by taking the shot, you learn a little bit. You learn more about your muzzle velocity, your travel speed. You get better at that. And then you're taking down guys who are way higher KD than you, and they don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But it's all about learning your play style in that way. So I kind of support no MMR for anybody that's at average level or higher. I
think.
But yeah,
I think generally that's where I'm leaning. But only for this, I feel like I need obviously a little bit more. I need to do a little bit more research. But my main thing is playing Halo Infinite, and it's like you'll just get shit on for 2 lobbies, and then they're like, all right, this guy sucks. And then what they'll do is they'll throw you with like literally like children. It's like, okay, someone handed their brother the controller. So here, go clean up these guys. And it's like, holy shit, I'm a god. I'm amazing. I'm crushing them. And then now they're like, oh, wait, hold on. This guy's actually a pro. This guy's, he's MLG. Then the next lobby, it's like, all right, I'm getting stopped. These people are way, but I do feel like I didn't have that issue before, and I don't necessarily know it's because my skill was any different. It just felt like generally I was getting the, in older games, everybody. It was just a mix, and I just naturally fell somewhere towards the middle.
Yeah, I would say I think there was some a document or something recently, last couple of months, about COD's use of MMR, and that they keep using it because it has increased their player retention because people
Oh.
lose so many times.
Mhm.
They're like, I need the win, and they get the big win because they're fighting the lower level, and they bounce back for a couple more games, and it keeps them going. And I think it's a little scummy
Yeah.
to do that.
They're trying to get you hooked.
Yeah, it's like there's people in games, that will derank. Something like Overwatch, right? Where there's a ranked mode.
Mhm.
You're playing ranked. People will throw to derank to play in lesser lobbies so they can style on people for a VOD or something, or to just be rude. But
Yeah.
it feels like the game is intentionally making you throw. And
Mhm.
I don't think it's fun for anybody. Um, everybody doesn't want to get home and play the sweatiest game they've ever played.
Yeah.
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 It was a lot more chill in the past, and they added it in Destiny recently. I say recently; it's probably been like 3 or 4 years.
They
But
added like MMR into their multiplayer. They're like PvP.
yeah, for their PvP, they
Mhm.
added in the MMR, and it was really controversial. It's still really controversial. Even the people who were lower, they consider themselves lower skill. They're like, this kind of sucks because now everybody on my team is bad, and they're all bad, and we're
Yeah.
just here for till timer.
Yeah.
And sure, there's some positives. I don't, somewhere in Bungie's numbers looks better,
Mhm.
but I don't like it because, like I said, I play with shitty stuff sometimes. So when I hop in, I'm trying to run double sidearms, which is like double pistols.
Yeah.
I'm not having a great time against people who are using the meta all the time. So it's my opinion. I don't like it. I think it's unfun because even growing up, when you're playing, these shooters and you're hanging out in Modern Warfare 2 lobbies and you have a 1.1 KD, you're still having a good time,
Mhm. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation so far. Please go over to Sato's channel to check out the second half of it. And thanks again for everything.